Tennessee, tires and meat, sheep, cattle, aluminum, rayon textiles, apples, corn, lots of airplane parts and airplane manufacturers. That's interesting. It's more than I would have thought, scattered throughout the country. And then Texas, obviously lots of oil scattered throughout the state. Oranges, grapefruits, oil refining, aluminum, sulfur, magnesium, forests, glass, salt, cotton up in here. Then we have Washington, forests all along here, sawmills and paper around the water there, wheat, cattle, lots of wheat up in this area, gold and silver, tungsten, strawberries. West Virginia, lots of coal up in this area, in the mountains of West Virginia. Railroad equipment, tobacco, pottery and dishes, marble, mountain resorts. It'd be interesting to see the difference between the states as they were in this book and where they are now. I would assume that things like tobacco would not be nearly as prevalent as they were at this time. Wisconsin. Cheese, honey, shoes, explosives, butter, dairy, pens, beer, plumbing fixtures, fish and canning, and maple syrup. And then we have Wyoming. Again, lots of mining and cattle and sheep scattered throughout the whole state. Here's Yellowstone National Park. Helium. Interesting. Sugar refining, flour, clay. And then we have Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. We have needlework, hats, rum, bananas, coconuts, sugarcane. Lots of sugarcane all through here. Sugarcane and rum in St. Croix. Rum vacation resorts in St. Thomas and St. John, Virgin Islands. So that's kind of what is being produced in the various states at this point in time. And I would imagine that while some things have been added, like, say, computer parts and stuff like that, that probably most of the things still exist in one form or the other in those states today. And then we have several pages on Canada, talking about the industry of Canada. It doesn't look like they have a icon map like they do for the individual states for Canada here. And then we have actual road map, atlas maps of Canada. So we have Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Prince Edward's Island. Here. This is Quebec. A little part of it sticking off here. I assume it's from over here. Ontario. This says Algonquin Provincial Park. Manitoba. Interesting, they just kind of cut it off the top and stuck it in there this way. Interesting. I guess that's to show most of the detail down here at this part. They've done the same thing with Saskatchewan. The roads are very, not completely grid-like, but definitely you can tell they were planned a little bit more than just haphazard across the state. Nice straight dividing lines to get from one place to the other. Alberta. Now this one they did this way. You can put a little bit here. And there's Calgary. British Columbia, all along the Pacific side of Canada. And they've really chopped it up here. Interesting. And then Yukon and the Northwest Territories. And Yukon is here. You don't think of Canada and Greenland being that close to each other. Interesting. And this is black and white of Newfoundland. Including Labrador. Wonder why that's in black and white. Because they printed this whole page in black and white. So that we didn't have print color on one side and black and white on the other. So here are the different cities in Canada. And here we come to some historical maps, starting with the Atlas of the Bible Lands. So here's a list. So this is almost like a book within a book. Here we have a physical typography map of Judea, Samaria. So this is an old map from way back. Probably more conjecture of where these different people lived, like Moab and Philistines from the Bible. Nations according to Genesis 10. Babylonians here, Hittites, and Egyptians. So lots of maps of this area, obviously, if they're Bible maps, so they're going to be concentrated mostly around Egypt and Israel. Going through the division of the different tribes of Israel. As we go through time, here we have the invasion this way. And it was divided up here, the Assyrians, Damascus, Egypt, Phoenicia, then the Assyrians came through and pretty much took all of it. And this is great empires of the 6th century. Egypt, Babylonian, the Median Empire, the Kingdom of Lydia, and then we have the Greeks coming across this way and establishing the Empire of Alexander the Great, which went through here all the way into India. It's just amazing how far he went. And I imagine if he hadn't died, he would have just kept on going. I don't think he liked to stay home very much. Then we have the Roman Empire. They kind of went the other way. Instead of pushing primarily towards India, they concentrated around the Mediterranean Sea, from Spain and what is now France up into Britain and on around into Egypt. And this is Palestine in this time of Christ, so this would still be part of the Roman Empire. Journeys of the Apostles. And here's the Roman Empire at its greatest extent, all the way up into Britain, all the way down into Egypt, and reaching to the Persian Gulf through the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers here, what is today Iraq. And so this is what that area looked like at the time the atlas was created. The Historical Atlas of World Civilizations. So this is kind of a recap of that, what we just saw. This is the Persian Empire and the Empire of Alexander the Great. So the Persian Empire was the red line, and Alexander the Great's empire is the yellow. Roman Empire again. This is Europe around 800 AD. The Frankish kingdoms, the Saxons, the Kingdom of Italy, the Caliphate of Cordova, the Caliphate of the Abbasids. So this is the part of Spain that was part of this empire here. Historic maps of Asia. Lots of, looks like explorers. No, it's not explorers. It was the cultural influences. Muslim influence, Hindu influence, this way. It's the Han Empire. You have the Mughals here, and the Huns, the Mughals invading this way, the Mughals invading this way, and the Mughals invading this way, all the way into Europe. So they pushed like the opposite direction from what Alexander the Great pushed. Europe in 1648. We have Spain is formed, France is formed, England and Scotland and Ireland. And then we have this entire area here, which is around what Germany is today, broken up into many, many, many different little city-states, not unified at all throughout this entire area. And then moving a little bit further in time, 1803, we have the Holy Roman Empire, and which was kind of a leftover from all of that division in those city-states. And the Kingdom of Prussia and Austria in here, and the Kingdom of Hungary kind of inside of that, and the Ottoman Empire, and in the Russian Empire, and the Kingdom of the Swedes, and the Kingdom of Denmark and Norway. Lots of kingdoms going on. Here's the Kingdom of Portugal. The kings were very much into the land that they owned. Then we have Europe in 1914. Here we have Germany has kind of consolidated itself. Here we have a map that is the principal voyages of discovery to America. So we have the color codes of the country in Europe and a line telling where the voyages of discovery came from. So it looks like most of Spain came this way and then cut across and landed this way. England, it looks, came kind of through the north and discovered and landed and colonized in that area. Interesting. King James grants the Plymouth and London companies. Early colonial grants, 1609 to 1744. So the beginnings of the New England states there. Changing ownership of the continent. We have a large French presence in the middle of the country. English kind of on either side of it. And by 1763, it is mostly English and Spanish. And then, of course, 1783, the independent part. In 1783, the independent, the actual country of the United States. Colonial America, starting here, and then routes to the west, ways in which people traveled from the East Coast, across the Mississippi, and all the way to the West Coast in California. We have the Oregon Trail, the California Trail, the Spanish Trail, here's the growth of the United States, starting out with this area here, the original 13 colonies, then growing all the way up to the Mississippi, and little there. And then next was this chunk. Then this was annexed. And then this part, and then that part. This is a division of the North and the South before the Civil War. And this is trails through the West as expansion continued. And then this is exploration of Canada. So we have routes coming in here, explorers. And then we have inland exploration here as well. The growth of Canada. We have Lower Canada and Upper Canada. It seems like that should be reversed. That's kind of interesting. And then Rupert's Land, the Hudson Bay Company. Then we have Quebec and Ontario and British Columbia already established. And all of this is the Northwest Territory. And this is Quebec and the district of Ungava, district of Kiiwetinoong, Ontario, and a lot of very small divisions here. Manitoba, Assanatoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Athabasca, District of Mackenzie, District of Yukon, and British Columbia. And then we have this time period, which is 1949, Quebec, Newfoundland, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, Yukon, District of Mackenzie, District of Kiiwetinoong, and District of Franklin. Very interesting. I did not know that. Then the very last part of the book has the races of mankind. And it basically goes through each of the major continents and talks about the different types of people who live there. Which I think is very useful for us to remember that it's not just Africans or Asians or, South Americans, that each part of the world has a very rich history of many of the different types of people groups that live throughout the earth. Europe and Asia, Eastern Asia, Central and Northern Asia, the Americas, Oceania. So, it's a very good thing to keep in mind that making generalizations about whole swaths of an area is probably never a good thing. And world distribution maps, political associations of the world, population densities at this time, religions of the world, languages of the world, accessibility, occupations, climates, natural vegetation, and then this is distribution of resources. Here we have coal, tin and copper, iron, petroleum, meat and fish, rubber and bauxite, lead and zinc, wheat, beet and cane sugar, cotton and wool, corn and rice, tea and coffee. Tobacco and cocoa. Strategic materials, raw mineral production, where they're distributed around the globe. It's very interesting. Self-sufficiency in raw materials. From the United States, Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, USSR, India, and Japan. And here, this is just a listing of measurements. The Earth and the solar system, distance in miles from the sun, revolution, period of days, diameter in miles, and density. Dimensions of the Earth, land surface, the weight of the Earth in tons. Wow. principal islands of the world, principal mountains of the world, and the longest rivers in the world. Then it wraps up talking about how we create maps and project them onto a flat page. So this is a very thorough atlas. Lots of very nice information. So it ends up with this last plate, like was on the front plate. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it for you. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.